Super Rugby round number 4, folks. Crusaders are still winless. Hurricanes are still undefeated. Aussie sides seem to be holding their own pretty well, but the Force continue to struggle. We'll go through the results, some stats, some scorers, and the upcoming fixtures and whatnot for this coming week's games. But yeah, game 1, Crusaders against Hurricanes, was basically billed as, undefeated Hurricanes up against winless Crusaders. But the Crusaders were back home, albeit with a bunch of injuries, and 14-10 is maybe a bit lower scoring than we would have expected. Like, if you were tuning into Super Rugby for the first time, I'm not sure that game was the best ad for the game, just in terms of the kind of on-the-field stuff, but the conditions were not ideal. But there was certainly a bit of tension at the end, with the score changing pretty late on for the Hurricanes to kind of, score that try to get them in front. It had to come back basically down to the last couple of minutes. Crusaders get a try through Grace, and the Hurricanes tries through Lomax and Sangster. So it's all the forwards getting the tries for this one. I mean, it's not like there weren't kind of moments of excitement. Like, Morby ended up with 5 defenders beaten and a bunch of run meters. Gallagher ended up making 27 tackles. There was a yellow card for the Crusaders, which probably didn't help. But yeah, 7-0 at halftime. Hurricanes, they can grind out a win down in Christchurch, is pretty encouraging. And with the Crusaders' next game being up in Auckland, up against the Blues, yeah, they got a tough wee fixtures list. So, I don't know. The Super Rugby is kind of forgiving in that the top 8 teams out of 12 make the playoffs, but they need to start picking up some wins, and you'd think pretty soon. The next game, the Rebels against the Reds, was a bit of a hiding, 53-26. Halftime was 33-7, so the Rebels were basically dead and buried pretty early on in this one. And you have to say, I think the Reds at the minute maybe have like the most impressive ball handling forwards in the competition. Like, I think McCright finished with 4 try assists, which is unbelievable for any player, let alone a guy who plays on the flank. I mean, tries through Uru, he gets 2. Fassler gets 1 from a maul, admittedly, but the right one had some great hands. Ravai also had great hands, and he got himself on the board too. Fluke got a couple. One was a real gift when the Rebels were actually starting to get some momentum in the second half. And Nasser got 1 as well. I mean, the Rebels got 1 through Callaway. He continues to impress. He beat 5 defenders and managed to get himself on the board. But Vaihu, Kalea, and Tuilima get themselves on the board. But like, they were 33-7 down. They got themselves back to 33-19. And then just gave away like a real gift of a try to the Reds, which is kind of not what you need to be doing. So, yeah, the Reds, man, are having a bloody good season thus far, 4 rounds in. Remembering the only game they dropped was in like Golden Point time, and it was to the only undefeated side in the competition. So very, very encouraging from the Reds. Not so encouraging is the Force, going down 14-22 to Moana Pacifica. Now, I'm chuffed that Moana Pacifica have got themselves a couple of wins thus far this season, because last season, at times they were kind of the whipping boys of the competition. They need to be strong if they're going to justify their existence in the competition. But right now, you could honestly say the same for the Force. Like, this was a kind of must-win game, man. You're winless. You've got traditionally one of the bottom sides traveling one of the longest distances in the competition to head away to Western Australia. And they got beaten 22-14, the Force, so really discouraging from them. I'll try to be optimistic, and they have got another home game coming up, albeit it's against the Reds, who are pretty high-flying, but the Force, I mean, with the Crusaders, you can kind of see them coming back into it. It's kind of hard to see the same true being of the Force. I mean, they got tries through Kunzel, which was a nice one, man. Tia continues to impress. Chip over the top for Kunzel was great. Tizano got 1 from a maul. But yeah, they conceded 1 through a maul. Malolo loves to try from close range, so he got 1 from Moana Pacifica. Kepu got 1 during a Force yellow card through Tizano with a high tackle, or head-on-head tackle. Timo Folau, boy, has that guy got some pace. That's the first time I think I've seen him running kind of top-line speed. That was really impressive. So, yeah, 3 tries to 2. Havili with that long-range penalty to kind of put it beyond a score. Yeah, that's good. That's good for Moana Pacifica, but really not so good for the Force. I do feel like that was one of the games they needed to win. The Saturday games, Highlanders Brumbies was billed as one where Highlanders are maybe overperforming a little bit based on where they were at last year. Encouraging signs anyway, and the Brumbies had been a bit mediocre. But the Brumbies go down to Dunedin and get it done, 27-21. Halftime was 11-7 with the Highlanders guys in front. They got tries through Broughton, which was a pretty messy one. Kick ends up dinking it through and just gets fingertips on it to get it down in the goal area. And Harmon showed some power to get himself one. But, the Brumbies right got one. Toole showed some real wheels, which he's, been doing for a long time now to get one on 42 minutes. And Lonergan got one from a maul. So, losing bonus point at the death for the Highlanders. They opted for the kick because the game was beyond them. So they'll at least get something out of the game. But I do feel like they'll be a little bit disappointed. But it's encouraging for the Brumbies. Because, they were supposed to be the ones kind of flying the flag for the Aussie teams. At the moment, it seems more like the Reds. But they both have 3-1 records. So to come over here to NZ, even if it's to the team which finished kind of bottom of the 5 New Zealand teams last year and get a win over the Landers, who, as I said, have seemed to be a bit improved, is an encouraging one. Kicked their goals as well, 3 conversions and 2 penalties. Interesting times. Toole, 56 metres, 3 defenders beaten, is doing good. Holland got 20 from 20 tackles for the Landers, but the Landers go 2-2 with that result. Chiefs over the Drua kind of had a similar vibe to the Reds against the Rebels game about it. Really high scoring one. The Chiefs never really looked in doubt. It was 24-17 at halftime. They started the game with a real hiss and a roar. Their line-out moves, the Chiefs, look really well executed and really hard to stop. Boshier got one from a line-out move. Ratime got one from a line-out move. Rona gets one, sets up a couple. Nanas Tura gets one. Stevenson gets one from a chip and chase. Did I mention Boshier got 2? He got 2. First one was a line-out move, but he finished the game with 2. Masi got 2 for the drill, which was a nice, pleasing one to see. They got the first score through Masi, kind of a loose high ball, which he was the kind of first guy to pounce on, and he got one before half-time. Kitaveta and Valentini got ones at the death to kind of, bring the scoreline a bit closer, but that one was never really in doubt. D-Mac still seems to be bossing the show. Finishes with 8 defenders beaten. He's looking sharp. Scott Robertson, I think, will be pretty impressed with what he's seen from him thus far. Roto Solia on a defensive shift made 10 from 11 tackles for the Drua, but they've only had the 1 win thus far. There's a couple of sides with only 1 win, and it's both over the Crusaders, the Drua and the Waratahs. Who would have thought that? Speaking of the Waratahs, their game against the Blues kind of had more similar vibes to their opening game with the Hurricanes Crusaders. Low scoring, 12-10, the Blues get it done. Skin of their teeth stuff, really. 7-3 at halftime. Only the 3 tries, 2 to the Blues. Tuangafasi gets one powering over from close range. Sullivan gets one with a bit of Blues pressure close to the line. And the Waratahs got one at the end through Laffy. And that last time was like 78 minutes. Close range one makes it kind of squeaky bum time because they still had time to do the restart. But the Blues were able to hold on. Nawani Tawase and Peach looked dangerous at times. They set up Riley for one, which could have been a try. TMO found a foot and touch. Perifeta with a nice try-saving tackle to stop him. But kind of maybe not the best ad again in terms of score lines for Super Rugby. Kind of low scoring, but as I said, kind of like that first game, it goes down to the wire, which is what you like to see. Nawani Tawase finished with 85 metres and beat 4 defenders, so 2-2 defensively, 11 from 12 tackles. So it's good. It's good for the Aussie sides because the Blues have in recent years been one of the stronger teams to. That's a game the Waratahs could have won, like their Highlanders game. I think the Highlanders game the week before they should have won. This is one they could have won. But, there you go. The log, as it stands, the Hurricanes, as I mentioned, top. They are the only team with a 4-0 record, undefeated. They're on 17 points. Reds, Chiefs, and Blues make up the top 4 on 15, 14, and 13 points, respectively. The Brumbies are not far behind the Blues, also on 13 points. Then the Highlanders, Rebels, and Moana Pacifica maintain the kind of top 8 spots. The Waratahs have dropped out of the top 8 into 9th with 6 points. The Drua, Crusaders, and then the Force on just the 1 point. Next week's games, Hurricanes, Rebels. One would think Hurricanes will continue their undefeated run at home against the Rebels side, who's been a little bit up and down, although they are still in the playoff spots at the moment. Brumbies, Moana Pacifica. Again, you'd think Brumbies are the favourites, but Moana Pacifica have been better than last year. Drua Waratahs is maybe one of the games of the round over in Fiji. Early kickoff on Saturday. Chiefs Highlanders should be a bit of a ding-dong one, but Chiefs at home are looking tough. Blues Crusaders. I mean, the Blues are in 4th and the Crusaders are in 11th. So based on form, you would think the Blues all day, but it would be very much like the Blues to give the bloody Crusaders their first win. I don't say give, I mean Crusaders to get their first win over the Blues. And then the Force take on the Reds, high-flying Reds against a bit of a disappointing Force side. That also looks like one which probably is pretty predictable, but who knows? This season of Super Rugby hasn't been that predictable thus far. You guys let us know your thoughts on the games. How do you reckon things are looking? And yeah, that's what you guys get to. See you later.